Hi everyone, welcome to this episode of Conversations with Carrie and Dani. And how you doing, Carrie?
I'm, I'm doing well. The time change, we just had our time change here in the US and that kind of kicked my tail. I'll tell you a little bit about that a little later, but it's it's been busy. We haven't recorded in a couple of weeks. I know I've had a bunch of stuff going on. I know Danny's been busy as well, but um and I texted Danny. I said, "Hey, we need to record another one." And I said, "I've got a topic." And how we normally do this is we just kind of one of us will pick something, and she doesn't even know what we're talking about today, and I kind of have an idea. We'll see where this goes. Um, this weekend I had the privilege of going to an event that the church that I attend, Northview Church here in Indiana, is called Discipleship Walk. They host two men's events, two women's events, and one youth event each year. And I attended it for the first time last spring, and so I served on this one. And I was they have a couple of different teams that lead and serve for the people who are attending for the first time. You're only allowed to attend once, then you can serve as many times as they ask you to. And I was on the gopher team. So go for this, go for that. So I was in
Yep.
charge of the dining room and um but I was really thinking about my first time attending, and one of the things I was struck by and how it is, it just opened my eyes to the importance of community. Whether that is an online virtual community. I know a lot of you that watch this channel, Peter's channel, and some others, feel very isolated after you have left the Adventist church, or you're in the process of disentangling from all of that. And I found last year that I was really touched by the community. I felt like I had lost my community because we left 3 years ago, and I felt like I got one again. And one of the most important things that I found in developing community, and I'm still struggling with this, is vulnerability and how to find those safe people and how to feel safe around a group of people. Because I don't know about you, Danny, but when I was an Adventist, especially because I was the pastor's wife, there was not a lot of vulnerability that was showed or shared. You didn't tell people when you were struggling, because that somehow made you less of a Christian, less of an Adventist if your life wasn't all put together. So that was something that just really struck me, because at this event, women get very raw and very vulnerable. Even the women that are serving are sharing some deep stuff that happened to them. I remember, and it's hosted at so the church I attend is a non-denominational church, but the facility that they use for this event is an Assemblies of God, like a youth camp convention center type place. And so people shared a couple of things that happened to them when they were kids, when they came to this very place, and it made them very scared to come, but they were vulnerable enough to share that. But anyway, thoughts on vulnerability and building community, Danny? I know that that's something that you're like, wait, no,
No, you're not getting off that easy, Carrie.
no.
So you're right. There is an unspoken expectation, really. Not just, I think pastors' wives get it harder. And
Mhm.
pastors. I know in the past, thinking back to some of the church pastors we've had and some of the conversations I've had with them. Especially some of the younger ones. The pressure to, yeah, just thinking about a couple of them. I don't want to share any details. It'll help you recognize them, even though some of these conversations were easy 15, 20 years ago. But the pressure they felt to look good so that people would think that you could ask questions of them. It's like, oh, no one's going to come and talk to me about anything or ask for pastoral care if I look like I'm a mess.
Hmm. Yeah,
I
yeah.
think society's changed a lot too.
Hmm.
I think social media and the use of YouTube and TikTok and stuff like that, I think everything's changed. I know that it's changed a lot when I think
Hmm.
back. What people share now on social media, I think is so different. Think about some of the stuff you've listened to on the internet. I mean, I wasn't meaning us, but I know you've looked at some of the cults to consciousness videos and
Oh my
things.
goodness. Yeah.
That just wasn't done 15, 20 years ago. It just wasn't done.
Well, it's still not done a ton for people who are still in. You know, you're not. I never felt, and I know I've had family members that have shared that they just don't feel like church isn't necessarily a safe space, and it should be the safest.
Why?
I don't know. I feel like it should be because
Why?
because God said, "Suffer the little children to come to me," and you would hope that the people in church would be non-judgy, but of course they are judgy, so there's so much of that um back and forth of and you talked about social media, and I think some people overshare on social media, and then there's some people who only share the beautiful aspects of their life, the perfect kitchen, the perfect children, everybody's well dressed, and the perfect aspects of all of that, but it's really hard to heal when you're not in community, and it's hard to and I think being vulnerable is important to for confession, for I think it also lets other people know that they're not alone, because I think many of us feel we're alone in a lot of our feelings, or at least I know I used to.
Um, why do you think the average person, so I mean people that aren't born into church,
Right.
let's have a think about this. You said church should be the safest place.
Mm-hmm.
And I agree with you. I do agree with you. It should be.
Right.
Um, but let's look at some things logically.
Mm-hmm.
So people are born into the church.
Yep.
Some people are genuinely there because they were look at the born into it first, okay? So out of the
Mm-hmm.
born into it, some people are genuinely there because they want to still be there.
Mm-hmm.
They have a genuine relationship with God and a real heart for people, and they stay in the church.
Mm-hmm.
Then you have what I believe is a larger proportion of people that stay because they think they should be there.
Yeah.
They
Think that they
just stay
should and they have no
because,
other place to be.
I mean, we've seen it on Facebook so many times. Oh, well, if I leave, where else am I going to go? If you grew up in the Adventist church, you don't have any other options. There's no other churches that are right.
Right.
So
Even
you
if you
stay.
disagree with certain portions of Adventist doctrine, they've got you with the Sabbath. Where else are you going to go for that? I
Yeah.
mean,
So well, a few other places, but so people
yeah,
stay. And if you
yeah.
look at people that come into the church as adults, I mean, you're a pastor's wife,
Hmm.
where you lived. What was just a few of the most common reasons why people might join a church or join the Adventist church?
I think one of the things that I mean, I think of the handful, the people um that came was more because they got brought in through a prophecy seminar, So they said,
Yep.
this is the remnant church, this is the one, this is why I'm here. Um Honestly, I think that was probably the most common, or the Sabbath, something
When I
like
think
that.
about when I think about some of the churches I've attended and a lot of the people I met that were new to church, once I got past the whole yes, it's the first 3 or 4 times we've met, and this is who we are. Once you get past the happy, shiny people thing, most of them joined because they were in crisis and they were looking for God or an answer.
Mm-hmm.
So, if you put aside the small percentage of genuine people born into it that have a giant heart for people and are actually like really feel things,
Mm-hmm.
not the ones that are going, oh, I've read the Good Samaritan parable and I've been told that I have to love people, and this is how, when you love people, how you act. I mean, the
Mm-hmm.
ones that actually might cry if they saw a dead kitten on the side of the road that had been run over or something.
Right. Yes.
Um, so this is the real rubber meets the road feelings. So if you take out the small percentage of, I believe it's a small percentage of them, put them to the side,
Hmm.
what you have left is people in crisis joining a church filled with people that believe there's nowhere else to go to find the truth. I mean, why would that be a safe place?
That's true. Yeah.
So basics. I used to think of it like this. I used to say to people, so the church is unique, Carrie. It's unique.
Hmm.
Any church this is, not just the Adventist one. Any church is unique because let's say you join a squash club.
Hmm.
Okay. So if you join a squash club and you want to play squash or a tennis club, you know when you join, okay, these are the rules and everybody's there for the same reason. They're there
Yep.
because they want to play tennis.
Yep.
You have various levels of how competitive people are, from social tennis through to wanting, competitive tennis.
Sure.
But they're all there with an exact common goal and a
Hmm.
common love, tennis.
Right.
Okay? And their love of tennis bonds them on that issue.
Hmm.
Okay. So how does that happen when you go to church? If you think of church as a club, same as a tennis club,
Right.
how do you
Yep.
think that works?
It's hard when you don't know all the rules, I think. Like with tennis, it's something that you participate in however often the tennis is. It doesn't necessarily affect the rest of your life. With church, it's everybody. But I think especially in Adventism, where there's such a variance in who who believes what, who who acts out on the or who uh how strict you are according to the Ellen Whiteisms, the diet, the Sabbath observance, all that other stuff. And you don't always know all the rules. Like if it's a tennis club, the rules of tennis apply. I'm sure there's a book somewhere. I've only played tennis a couple times in my life. But there's rules, exactly how you're supposed to behave. But then in the church,
But
deeper than that.
let's ever think about this again.
Yeah.
When you go to let's say you join a tennis club, you join a hockey club, you join a badminton club, you join a horse club. How do you expect the people to act? Are you surprised if you go to a badminton club, a tennis club, a chess club, and people are angry, annoyed?
Yeah. I mean, I mean, you would
Is
expect
it
that
going to
they
be a
would,
surprise?
yeah, you would expect that they'd be happy to be there. They joined the club voluntarily, that they would enjoy it.
Yeah,
Um,
but you're still going to find, you'd still expect at any tennis club, chess club,
sure.
horse riding club, anything, you're going to expect member conflict. You're going to expect some people to not like each other. You're going to expect some people are more patient than the others.
Hmm. Yeah.
You're going to expect, oh, actually, I might be happy to go out for a coffee and share deeper feelings with this one, but not with that one.
Right.
And none of it's surprising, right?
Correct. It's human nature.
So why do we expect anything different at church?
Because you're supposed to, I don't know. I think we just do. I think we expect every Christian to be a Christian, to act a certain way, to be kind, to be patient. And I think that's the vulnerability aspect is the expectation is that people are going to be Christian. And then when they're not Christian or they don't act Christian, you don't know how to deal with it because we're not taught. At least this is my experience. You just didn't know what to do with people who didn't have their act together.
So
If that makes sense.
if church is supposed to be a hospital for sick people,
Right.
emotionally sick people,
Yes.
why would you expect them to be all those things you just said?
Yeah. Because
They can't be.
because how I grew up is it wasn't, yes, we said that, but then when people who were actually sick came in, they didn't know what to do about it. They didn't know how to act, how to really help the people because the church had, my experience had become just a hangout, a social club for the saints. And so when somebody comes in that's not, it's it's hard to explain, you know, and I think I was probably one of the judgier ones because even though I didn't like I knew I wasn't supposed to be, that was just how it was, you know.
Yeah. Um, had a thought about this while you were talking. Something come to me that it's yeah, sitting in the back of my mind. Um, my mum, my mum is oh, you has always been a doer. So she's in a
Hmm.
dementia unit now, so she's not a lot of anything, but she was always a doing person. Um, and I didn't realize till I got into my adult years that she sat a little ways up the quite a ways actually up the autism scale.
Hmm.
And I think that really impacted how she related to people. And the people that love her, and the ones that don't. But
Hmm.
she was a doer. So she even in her mid 50s, she traveled to Thailand and Cambodia, and she worked in missions, and she did dangerous things, and she built toilet blocks, and she could bleed the brake pads on the car and put new ones on. She could spot weld and spray paint a whole car from scratch. She did these amazing things. So she was a doer. And one of the things I didn't realize till I got older was that the church really suited her. The church tells stories like, you know, that they tell a lot of stories, a lot of there's a lot of parables about doing things. You know
Hmm.
that there's the Good Samaritan, and
Sure.
he did something.
Hmm.
We get told a lot, faith without actions is nothing.
Hmm.
Okay. Now I'm not going to debate the theory of faith without actions. I want to look at how all these things impact your initial comments. So the church suited my mum. It suited her because well, she got frustrated with it at the end, but it suited her a lot because it was very action based. And listening to some of the people that had known her for like 30 and 40 years about things, I realized as an adult that she didn't connect well with people. So her way of connecting was to do things for them.
Hmm.
So she worked with Women's Refuge right up until her dementia and memory loss started to get bad. She was still cooking food for the homeless people in the town she lived in and going down the street with hot sausage rolls and fish pie. She was like, I'm not taking vegetarian food to the homeless people.
Oh
And
no.
she was feeding them things that other people only ever just think would be a good idea. She was out there doing.
Hmm.
And that worked really, really well for her. So
Hmm.
if you were in crisis and you needed something done, she was fabulous.
Yes.
But if you needed somebody just to be there, she was absolutely hopeless.
Yeah.
Okay. And I think that I've looking at trying to think of some of the other churches I've been to. I think Christianity often is looked at as a doing thing. And I don't want to say that, I'm
Hmm.
not saying that doing's bad. Please don't hear me say
Right.
doing's bad.
Oh
But
no.
I know from the time I was young, it was always preached. You know, at the end of time, God's going to say, when Jesus comes back, he's going to say, I don't know you.
Because you
Um,
didn't do. Yep.
you didn't feed me when I was homeless. You didn't visit me in prison. You didn't give me clothes. You didn't. It's, I really believe that people aren't taught the skill
Yeah.
of being. Um, yeah, sure. There is an important, I was working at one place, the last place I worked, I did voluntary counselling at the local resource centre for called the Family Resource Centre for a couple of years, and I did 2 days a week for them voluntary. And I was working with people that didn't qualify for any counselling help at all or any therapy. They were the
Hmm.
people that fell through the cracks, the
Sure.
people that were sometimes the government had put them up in a hotel to try and get them off the streets, and some of them couldn't even come to counselling because they were having such bad anxiety and panic attacks. They had to be visited at home, and there was no provision for that in
Hmm.
paid counselling. It's like people have to come to your office. If they
Hmm.
can't get to your office, they don't want counselling bad enough. It's part of their therapy is to get there. So visiting them in their home and talking them through the panic attacks and walking out the door with them, people that are unsupported was important. But the best thing about this job was that if I had a client turn up that couldn't talk about or do any emotional work because they were starved or hungry, I'd say, hang on a minute. I'd bang on the door and I'd say to the social worker, I need you. So they'd come in, sort out the client, sort out, social workers are amazing.
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
s- sort out the food, sort out stuff for them. And they always had snacks in the fridge in their office as well to feed people. And they'd organize food parcels for them to take home. And at that point, there's a whole, and even then, people don't need counseling. They just need somebody to sit in the mess with them. They don't need someone to pull them out of their
Mhm.
feelings and their mess. They just need somebody to sit there with them so that the darkness doesn't feel overwhelming or scary. And I
Yeah.
believe that's a skill that we I believe it's a skill that we don't most people don't have. We don't get taught it.
Mm-mm.
There's fancy words for it. People don't get taught how to just hold space for someone else's feelings so that there is a place for them to do it. I don't believe that people at church are horrible or uncaring or deliberately mean, but how is somebody that has no idea how to be comfortable with their own pain going to be comfortable with somebody else's?
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
And and why? And we're not, like you said, we're not taught. I think there need to be courses run on it. People need to be taught how to find safe people, what they look like.
Yeah.
Um,
People can always
they
start
need.
with this book, Safe People.
Oh, I forgot you got that one.
I think
Yeah.
my husband's reading it right now. I started reading it and then I stopped, and so I think he swiped it. So I've got 5, 10 books that I'm trying to read right now. So, but it's a good one.
We're not taught it.
Yeah.
The other, 'cause it just brings me up to something else that it came up again recently because of one of my friends, and I've been thinking about that is that I don't. For me personally, it could be different for everyone else. I believe that growing up in the Adventist church, I wasn't taught to grieve well. I
Right.
wasn't taught to deal with emotional loss and pain.
Hmm.
I was told if somebody dies, be happy that you're going to see them again in heaven. There's no room there for pain, and we need to be allowed to feel pain.
Hmm.
From my earliest memories of, um, I remember not wanting a cat for years. I remember coming home from church and there was tire tracks over what the nature strips, what we call it a nature strip. So there was tire strips over the first piece of grass,
Hmm.
and then they went over the pavement or the footpath we call it, and
Hmm.
then onto the little piece of grass between our front fence.
Hmm.
Okay, so you've got the road, a wide strip of grass, the pavement, a narrow
Hmm.
strip in the front fence. So they
Hmm.
went off the road, over the first strip of grass, over the footpath, onto the next strip of grass, over my cat, and then all the way back out onto the road. I can remember not wanting another cat for years because it hurt so bad. Um, I don't think we teach, it could be different now, but growing up for me, children weren't. I went to church school, church pathfinders, church everything. There was nobody role modeling or teaching how to grieve and how to feel feelings of pain. Everything was passed off as this is God's will and you should be happy about it.
Yeah.
So, how are those
Mhm.
people going to be safe people and to build community and to do the things that you're talking
Mhm.
about that's needed, Carrie?
Yeah, just to sit and not to, and I'm in a training for to facilitate a growth seekers group. I think I talked to you about it. It's a discipleship type thing, and part of the skills is, learning, to listen and to attune with people and to figure out help them to figure out
Mm.
what their emotions are and not to slap a scripture band-aid on things. And that's, oh, that would always just annoy me. You're at a funeral and somebody goes, all things work together for blah 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 blah. I mean, it, that's yeah, you can believe that, but keep your mouth shut about it right now because there are people around that are really in pain, and uh, wrapping your arms around them and just saying, I am so sorry for your loss, is so much better than reciting scripture and trying to make them feel better because they're not going to feel better for a while, and that's okay, you know? And that's tough.
Yeah.
I've had widows and widowers in my chair, when I go to clean. I mean, I've been taking care of these people, some of them for 5 years, and they've lost a spouse since I saw them last, and that's just so hard. I mean, these people are in their 80s and 90s, but of course they're still sad. And it's okay to be sad, you know? And many of them are Christian, and so they believe that they will see their spouse again, but it's still, they're still dealing with a lot of pain.
I know for me personally, as a European white lady, I haven't grown up in a culture that teaches people to grieve anything well. And
Hmm.
this is not just the loss of a spouse. I mean, if we're talking about grieving loss, what about the loss of a job,
Hmm.
the loss of hope?
Hmm.
Um, every single day we deal with losses.
Hmm.
You get to a point where you look in the mirror and you lose your youth, you lose your wrinkle-free face, you lose your waistline.
I just bought some new eye cream to work on the dark circles.
Um, but yeah, I mean, people don't think about it. We there's lots and lots of what we'd call micro losses, but they all still hurt every
Yeah, they do.
day.
And I think too, grieving for us, we're grieving our church, our community that we had. And part of our, we obviously had negative experiences in that community, but it's still our community, you know?
I've got a friend that oh my goodness, not my story to tell. I have a friend that I knew in my teenage years, and then she, due to her ending up with a horrible control freak partner, we lost contact for 25 years and then made contact again. And it was just really odd because I didn't even know I was doing it until she said something, and I was calling her every Saturday. I'd be like, "Do you want to Zoom? I got some time. How you doing? I want to make sure you're okay." We're checking in on her and stuff, and she was really happy with that. But there came a point where I thought, "Hang on a minute, why do I only call her on Saturdays?" And I had to stop and think that the rhythm of my life had been disrupted. There was an empty spot there now.
Saturday morning, what to do?
Well, not even just what to do. I had plenty of things to do, but
Right.
it was the whole connection thing. My body was in the rhythm of you connect with people. That's what happens.
Hmm.
Um, you connect with people that just, so yeah, it just was one of those little odd things. But I really believe we're not good at grieving. And I've been reading some stuff written by a lady called, I think it was Megan von Fricken was writing some stuff. She grew up in an evangelical high control religion, and some of it sounds a lot tougher than some of the stuff I lived with, but some of it still applies. And she was talking about, as kids, we were taught everything was a lot of the parenting was our parenting was like given over to God. You rock up, "Ooh, it hurts," and you're told, you know what? Have faith. Faith means nothing to a 6-year-old. It was God's will, means nothing to a 6-year-old whose cat died.
Right. And then they're gonna
Um,
blame God for the cat that died.
well, I wasn't even looking at it from the blame point. I was
Right.
just thinking that it doesn't teach life skills. It doesn't teach somebody how to be present with their own pain. And if you
Hmm.
can't be present with your own, you can't be present for somebody else's.
Right. Yeah.
And therefore, I think maybe you need to lower your expectations.
Hmm.
Hold your hope high, but lower your expectations. Of
Yeah.
course, I'm just your friend, so I don't have to tell you all the polite counseling things. I can just give it to you straight.
Yep. Yep. No, and I mean my expectations of church is very different. I mean the church that we go to is night and day different from the Adventist church. We all, as you say, rock up in our in our hoodies and our sweatshirts and blue jeans and occasionally somebody will be dressed up, but we're there as we are, and you have there, we've got some folks that attend with facial piercings, all kinds of tattoos, and nobody cares. We're just there worshiping and enjoying the Lord. And the the programs that, my husband and I are now being involved with, the marriage ministry and the discipleship ministries and things are really, really helpful. I think we both, I mean, there's a lot of disentangling to do, and a lot of that's, emotional stuff too, where you weren't really is, didn't want to be vulnerable, and I'm still working on it. I'm a work in progress. I haven't got it all figured out. I'm not sure I ever will, but as long as I keep working on it, right?
Oh, this is a rabbit trail. It has to be a short one because we haven't got a lot of time left, but I can't
Yep.
help it. We were talking about rocking up in jeans and hoodies, and I thought, oh my goodness. I don't know about you, but in our family, we had church clothes because we had to present our best to God.
Yep. Yep.
Um, and we only wore them to church, nowhere else. And the minute we got home from church, we had to take them off and put them in the wardrobe. And
Hmm.
if we were going out for lunch, we had to take a change of clothes so we could change into our other clothes and not wear our church clothes for lunch either.
Well, it depends on whose house we were going to. We would take a change of clothes and keep it in the car because if their kids weren't changing clothes before lunch, we couldn't change clothes before lunch. But if their kids were changing clothes before lunch, we could change clothes before lunch. And if we went to grandma's house, we usually kept our church clothes on until at the end of the meal, then we could go change. Just different stuff. And I remember, you know, I had to wear tights, the opaque white tights, and then I got old enough I
Yep.
could wear pantyhose. Oh, I haven't put on a pair of pantyhose in 15, 20 years. The freedom is awesome. I will never wear another pair of pantyhose. Ugh, they're
I,
gross.
I hear you. I have the same reaction to them. It's like, oh,
No, 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 no. So, a little bit I do miss. Sometimes I miss dressing up. So occasionally if there's another event at church, a date night or something, I'll put a dress on, but usually I just come rolling up in my blue jeans and a t-shirt and I have a special t-shirt I wear when I'm helping out with the kids, that says team member and Northview Kids on the back and stuff. So
yeah.
I don't even have to think about what I wear to church. It's awesome. So there's an authenticity, and I think that's so refreshing, and I hope that I'm working on being more authentic with people and hopefully being a good example and learning how to sit with people. It's so hard to keep your mouth shut and not want to slap a scripture band-aid on something or try to make them feel better or do the silver lining. Well, if because this happened, just trying to make people feel better. And there's a time and a place for that, but when somebody is needs just to be listened to and sat with is
When I was, sorry, when I was working as a middle school counselor,
uh-huh.
so working with 10 to 12-year-olds, the kids absolutely loved me and said I was the best counselor they'd ever had. And I'll tell you why. It wasn't because I fixed anything. It wasn't because I fixed anything. It wasn't because I was clever or I understood them better than anyone else. It was because I sat there with some of them, the ones that said it. I'd sit there with them and say, I'm really sorry. Let's be honest, your life sucks. These are kids in gang homes and they come to school stuff. And I said to them, your life sucks. I'm so sorry.
Hmm.
How long before you can leave home? 5 years? Okay. So let's make a plan of how you're going to survive them.
Oh,
And sometimes I think that's the best thing you can do is say to someone, I'm sorry. It absolutely sucks.
yeah.
It is not fair and it sucks. When you're ready, let's make a plan on how you're going to survive this.
I think that's an awesome note to end on, is listening to people, affirming their feelings. Yes, your life sucks when you are ready, because there may not be ready to sit down and try to come up with a plan. When you're
Mm,
ready, we'll work on a plan of how to get through it. And I think that's so important, and be willing to sit and say, man, that's a bummer. That really sucks. But hopefully, we can get through it when you're ready. It's tough.
Yep.
There's so many things, so many yucky things that kids are going through right now. It's just horrendous. And adults too, of course. Just some crazy things. But um, well, I hope everybody enjoyed our little rabbit trail conversation with Carrie and Dani. Hopefully we'll get another one out soon in the next week or so. Thanks for the conversation, Dani. I knew that I could count on you to give me some good advice and have some good things to talk about as far as what it means to be vulnerable and hopefully help others heal in community. So,
And if you're listening and you
yeah.
want to share some of the things that really helped you the most when you were in loss and what just sitting there and being with you looked like so that other people reading and watching later can see it, then just drop a note below and let us know the things that when you've experienced loss were most helpful to you.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Well, please like and subscribe, leave us a comment, and hopefully we'll hear some good stories from everybody, and we'll hopefully include it. Mr. Carrot says hi to everybody too. He won't leave me alone, but that's okay. And we'll see all of you later. Have a good evening or morning or whatever we're working with, whatever time zone you're in. Have a great day.